Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Checks and Balances TV. Today's program is entitled, Is Your Financial Advisor a Trick or Treat? The truth about some of the bad apples out there. So let's see how today's news may impact your financial future. The U.S. Department of Justice recently released the United States Attorney's annual statistical report for fiscal year 2010, which revealed an 8% increase in the number of white-collar financial fraud cases. It was also reported that white-collar fraud made up a greater percentage of overall criminal cases in 2010 at 9.4%. The good news here, though, is that of all the cases prosecuted in 2010 by the U.S. Attorney's Office, the conviction rate was an astounding 91%. More than 1,500 defendants were convicted of a financial crime during fiscal year 2010, for crimes ranging from Ponzi schemes to mortgage fraud, securities fraud, and quite a few others. Okay, so what's really going on here? Let's check the facts using our checks and balances process. White-collar crimes are defined as non-violent crimes committed by an individual or group for financial gain. Typically, white-collar criminals pose as professionals and have knowledge of financial policies and investments. In an effort to prosecute these criminals, the federal government has enlisted the offices of the U.S. Attorney General to serve as the nation's principal litigator and chief federal law enforcement officer. They prosecute the federal financial fraud cases that are reported to the Securities and Exchange Commission or those investigated by the FBI. In their fiscal year 2010 annual report, they revealed that white-collar criminal cases involving lending and investment frauds were on the rise in 2010. Fortunately, they closed nearly 6,000 cases throughout the year, with nearly 8,000 defendants convicted and almost two-thirds of them being sentenced to prison. Included in the report was the largest investment fraud sweep ever conducted in the U.S. It was called Operation Broken Trust and took place between August 16th to December 1st of 2010. The operation was led by the Financial Fraud Enforcement Task Force, which includes more than 20 federal agencies, 94 U.S. attorneys' offices, as well as state and local law enforcement. The goal of Operation Broken Trust was to root out and expose massive investment fraud schemes across the country and alert the public about the many phony investment scams out there today. During the 15-week sweep, 343 criminal defendants were charged, convicted, or sentenced for their participation in a financial fraud. It was also estimated that those investors lost more than $8 billion in these investment schemes. Okay, so now that we've checked the facts, let's balance this news using our checks and balances process to determine what action you should take today. With financial fraud on the rise in this country and our economy failing to improve, unfortunately, more and more consumers are falling victim to white-collar crimes. Unfortunately, financial scammers follow the headlines also, and they know times are tough for millions of Americans. So they intentionally target those who are most vulnerable. Over 1 million people complained about some form of consumer fraud last year, for a total loss of more than $1.7 billion. According to the Consumer Sentinel Network, an online database that stores complaints from state and federal agencies. The unfortunate part here is that most people are not reporting the financial scam committed against them because they either don't know where to get help or they are too embarrassed to tell anyone that they were duped. The Federal Trade Commission, who is responsible for protecting consumers from fraud, deception, and unfair business practices, recently released its annual list of top consumer complaints for 2010. Imposter scams made the top 10 list for the first time. These scams take place when imposters pose as friends, family members, respected companies, or government agencies, and convince consumers to send them money. The FTC received over 1 million consumer complaints in 2010, and 4% of those were imposter scams. One particular imposter scam is taking advantage of senior citizens and is known as the grandparent scam, with scammers posing as a grandchild in dire need of financial help. Another type involves homeowners struggling to avoid foreclosure, with scammers offering to secure a mortgage loan modification for a fee. Texting scams have also become quite popular, with victims receiving a text message that says on their cell phone that one of their bank accounts is frozen and they will need to call a special number and reveal their account information. Okay, so what's the bottom line here? White-collar crimes are a real concern for everybody today, particularly those older Americans who are struggling financially. The federal government has tried to put an effective consumer protection system in place to fight financial fraud, using organizations such as the SEC, the FBI, the FTC, and the U.S. Attorney General's office. But they can only do so much, and they really can't help victims who don't file a complaint. The FTC conducted a random telephone survey a few years ago and found that only 8.2% of victims actually reported these crimes. Well, that means that more than 90% of all victims are not taking any action. So the real key here is to be vigilant whenever you're approached with any investment opportunities, especially those that seem to be too good to be true, and question everything you hear. The fact of the matter is, there are a lot of bad apples out there, so be sure you investigate them thoroughly before you take a big bite out of any one of them. And now for Matt's weekly financial tip, tool, or technique. Most people are afraid of becoming a victim of a financial fraud, but never conduct an appropriate background check prior to investing their hard-earned money. This can be done through simple research and by asking your financial representative the right questions about their experience and history in the financial services industry. To help you with your research and investigation, here are 3 scam protection tips to always follow whenever you're approached with any type of investment opportunity. Tip number 1, research financial designations. Financial advisors can use more than 200 different designations to call themselves an expert. Certified financial planner, chartered financial consultant, and chartered financial analyst are the most common credible designations. But new ones are created all the time in an effort to convince consumers that the advisor is knowledgeable and experienced. Designations such as Certified Senior Advisor, Certified Elder Planning Specialist, and Certified Senior Consultant are real designations aimed at assisting pre-retirees and retirees, but they require just 3 days or less of coursework to achieve. Tip number 2, perform your own background check. All financial professionals need to be registered, either through your state, the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, or the SEC. FINRA offers consumers the ability to perform their own background check by using an online tool called BrokerCheck. And the SEC gives you the same ability by logging onto their website, which is www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. The Better Business Bureau is also a good source to research information on financial advisors, as well as the National Ethics Association. And tip number 3, interview the financial advisor you're considering working with. Never allow a financial advisor to only interview you. You should interview them. You have every right to ask the tough questions before handing over your hard-earned money. If an advisor does not want to answer your questions, then you do not need to give them your business. Review our free report, 10 Questions to Ask Your Financial Advisor Before You Invest a Dime with Them, to gain a better understanding of what you should know and ask before making a critical decision to work with them. And please remember, your financial future is on the line every day. So use these tips with every investment opportunity or financial advisor presenting the opportunity to you. And if you ever encounter any type of financial fraud, file a complaint with the authorities so they can bring them to justice. Be sure to log on to our website and download our free report, 10 Questions to Ask Your Financial Advisor Before You Invest a Dime with Them. A free report that gives you the information and tools you need to select the best financial advisor you can to help build a financially secure future. And finally, remember that only you can control your financial future. You can succeed. You just need confidence and determination. I'm Matthew J. Reddick from Checks and Balances TV. Until next week, dump debt, invest wisely, believe in yourself, and make it happen.